Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patriots III, Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness. And here's your hosts, Tim and John Valle. John, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing it right. Yeah, we're going to cover a few things here tonight. Involving the Save Act and election fraud. And we'd both like to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
So be sure to like, share, and follow on Tim Holliday TV. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. Twitch TV, that's a video gamer platform, try to get some of the youth involved, and then listen in later on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So there it is. So John,
how's it going today?
It's going all right. It's been rather chilly over here in the Midwest. Actually, we had a cold snap that came in out of nowhere. It seemed, dropped down to I think 16 degrees.
Yeah, we're having bipolar weather here in Washington. I mean, it's windy one day, it's raining one day, sunny one day. I mean, I had my winter overnight with all the guys, and traditionally what we like to do is, a group of us go up into the park down at the bottom of the mountain, pack it in, pack it out, hike up there, do our shelters, some lean-tos, whatever, grill some ribeyes and test out our gear, do some night shoots. Night shoots, do some night movements and stuff like that. And there was no snow. There hasn't been no snow.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, it's going to be 35. And then we saw this wind advisory pop up, and it was 55 mile per hour winds. We're on the side of a mountain. And at 3:48, I got woke up by just this howling wind. Wow. And it was pretty crazy. And then just this last weekend, it snowed. And we're like, what the heck? So it was crazy. Yeah. And it's, it's been sunny for a couple of days, and now it's cloudy and rainy. So it's just bipolar weather.
Yeah. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago there, down in Joplin, Missouri, they had hail that was about, you could barely see the person's fingertips. It was,
wow.
grapefruit size. And we had snow flurries in my area. So that was quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Yeah. So a lot of stuff going on today between Joe Kent and the Save Act and everything that's going on. And it's pretty crazy, So today, John Thune basically brought the Save Act to the floor, which was pretty interesting, right? And he announced it at 9 a.m. and they started take over the floor. Yeah. There was a lot of debate. Anna Paulina is basically saying it's basically a show. He's going to ask for all this other stuff. But so far from what I've seen, I've been watching in real time as I work. And now, but basically, it's going to force the Democrats to a prolonged debate. And let's see if they can debate. A lot of these guys, a lot of Republicans that I'm watching are just coming out fire, just nailing these guys, and it's going to be interesting. But we go back to the Save Act. We look at Trump's been tweeting about it pretty much every week or all month. But the specific tweets, if we look on, the second, Trump was tweeting about it, talking about it. We look on the 5th, he was talking about it, and hey, we need to get it passed. Blah blah blah. And don't forget, from our last podcast, I said what he was going to do. He's already ready to do this executive order, right?
Yeah.
But he's pushing these guys to see how more he can push them, right?
Yeah.
So on 3/8, they talked about it, and they said, hey, we're not going to sign any bills until the Save Act is passed. So he came out and specifically said that, hey, I'm not signing any bills you guys pass, anything, until you pass the Save Act. Then he tweeted again on 3/9 and on 3/17. So he's been pushing Jonathan, pushing him. And, you had the normal holdouts, Murkowski, Collins, Tillis out of North Carolina, and then Mitch McConnell, right? So you have the forerunner. Of course, Tillis, he's not running again. This is his last hurrah. So he's just trying to damage Trump on his way out as much as he can, Wow. So about 10 or 11 o'clock, it came out that Murkowski, who is a Republican in the Republican Party, whose state Alaska voted for this, voted for Trump by however many percent, said she was a no. Tilla said she was a no. So we're waiting for Collins out of Maine and Mitch McConnell to see what happens, and they voted yes for it. Okay. So that was a good thing, Yeah. I think you have a clip there after John Thune spoke about it. The majority whip, Senator Barrasso, got up there, and I think you have that. He was the first to speak.
Did he speak on which show, what platform?
On the SAVE Act on Twitter. I think I sent you that link.
Okay, sorry. The Tulsi?
No, Senator Barrasso. Did I send you that?
No, I don't believe I have that.
Okay.
My apologies.
So after that, then I think Senator Jim Banks spoke. Senator Jim Banks spoke, and he spoke. They were just lighting him up. They were going over just what Democrats, what they're doing and stuff like that, how they're basically showing them how they're what their agenda is and what they're trying to do, how they're trying to evade, how they want illegals to vote. And then later on we had Ted Cruz. I think you have Ted Cruz, right?
Oh, yes, I do. All right, here we go.
American people do not support voter ID, Mr. President. Our Democrat colleagues are fond of bellowing into the TV cameras that photo ID to vote is Jim Crow. They tell us with mock earnestness. Now, I will admit, our Democrat colleagues should be experts in Jim Crow because it was Democrat politicians who passed the Jim Crow laws. It was Democrat politicians who founded the Ku Klux Klan. It was Democrat politicians for decade after decade who enforced discrimination, separate but equal, poll taxes, and a host of other laws designed to prevent African Americans from voting. But do you know who has rejected their disingenuous claim that photo ID to vote is Jim Crow? The Supreme Court of the United States. Supreme Court of the United States, the state of Indiana, passed photo ID law requiring that you show a photo ID to vote. And a group of left-wing plaintiffs filed litigation challenging that.
Wow.
Yeah, Ted Cruz, man. If you've ever watched Ted Cruz in a debate, I think the only debate that I've seen him lose was in 2016 during the presidential debate when he said, famously said, when he was going after Trump, and he said, "Oh yeah, we know your New York values." And Trump came back and just said, "Yeah, your New York values." It went into 9/11 and how people, and at that point, Ted Cruz has lost it. But that's the only debate I've ever seen Ted Cruz lose. And he's probably one of my favorite for the Supreme Court to get nominated to go to the Supreme Court. I mean, him and Rand Paul, they're masters on the Constitution. And, Ted Cruz, he clerked for some of the SCOTUS judges, sorry. But it's just great. But it's true. You look at the Democrat Party, and that's what they're for, You see Chuck Schumer come out today. You see all these Democrats come out today. Patty Murray from my state, Washington, came out today. And they're basically saying, hey, they want illegals to vote because that's the only way they're going to stay in power,
Yeah.
So you have the SAVE Act going, but why is the SAVE Act here? What's going on,
Yeah.
So we want to go to, the fraud that's out there. And it's coming out rapidly, So a couple of months ago, we talked about the Fulton County, Georgia raid and what was going on. And then recently, as I hinted on the last podcast, we talked about the FBI secretly they seized electronic records in Maricopa County,
Yeah.
and it's part of a grand jury investigation. And right now they're receiving and have received terabytes of information. They're receiving data from 2020 and 2024,
Wow.
Especially Maricopa County. There's 200,000 ballots that have been mismatched, that have mismatched signatures, and that were never reviewed or cured. Now, if you're not into politics and you're not in your county GOP, like a lot of us here in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, a lot of the Patriot groups, we're all in our county GOP. We're PCOs, district leads, stuff like that, to ensure that we have fair elections to get Patriots elected, right?
Yeah.
When you have mismatched signatures, you have to cure them. You have to review them, and they didn't do that, So it's pretty interesting. I think you have a clip I sent you from Tulsi.
Yes. Yeah, here it is.
Lastly, sir, as you know, declassification and rooting out weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community is a huge priority. You know more than anyone else the very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Yeah, I've said it before. If it's connected to a network, it can be hacked.
Oh, yeah. So, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. Don't forget that Tulsi was there. There's that famous picture of Tulsi there when they raided Fulton County, Georgia, where she was on her phone. And it's come out, it was Trump she was on the phone with. Tulsi's seen everything. She knows everything, Yeah. And, some hard facts are that Dominion deleted 2.7 million Trump votes. That's a fact, Analysis found that 221,000 votes in Pennsylvania were switched to Biden. It's a fact. They have the evidence, right?
Yeah.
941,000 Trump votes were deleted. I think it was over a few states. And the states that were using Dominion voting, the system switched 435,000 to Biden. Those are hard facts that are coming out already. And then don't forget the famous CNN live votes when everybody's watching CNN and the votes got switched live. It was like almost 20% switched live. These are the things that that they are they're committing fraud. When you go back to if you remember in 2020 when General McInerney said, "Hey man, Venezuela, a lot of this stuff is Smartmatic, it's Dominion, it's coming from Venezuela. It's also China has a little bit to do with it, right?" Yeah. And basically they said, "Well, how do you know this?" He goes, "Because I was part of it. I was part of Hammer's scorecard. Yeah. We use this. We, the U.S. military and the U.S. government, used it on other countries. We did this to other countries. I was part of it." That's what he was saying. He was basically coming out saying he was part of it, Yeah. And it's very fascinating. And that's when you had who was the two Georgia people, Sidney Powell, and there was somebody else that were out there, and they just got shellacked. Wow. They were sued, they were charged. All these people were charged. They tried to go after them. The Biden DOJ went after them for separate set of electors and stuff like that. And all these people were getting in trouble. Look at Tina Peters. Tina Peters is in jail, still in jail, for bringing out this fraud. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's still people today that are suffering because they brought this out, Yeah. And it's just mind blowing that this is going on, Yeah.
So here's that picture that you were talking about earlier.
There's Tulsi at Fulton County on the phone with Trump saying, "Yes, sir, Mr. President, we got everything. We have everything." Now she's the head of the DNI. DNI, they oversee NSA, CIA, FBI, all of it, right? Yeah. So they know, they know what's going on, Yeah. And she's been at the forefront. Now remember, when she brought it up, Hillary went after her pretty hard, Yes. She's no she's no favorite of Hillary Clinton, And
Definitely
so,
not on the Christmas list, that's for sure.
oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, look, when Trump's out of office, in 2028, whoever wins, hopefully it'll be Vance.
Yeah.
But when time comes, Democrats go back there. I have no doubt, like they're doing right now to Kristi Noem, they're going to try and charge her. They're going to bring her before Congress. They want to bring him up on charges. They would have all these things,
Yeah.
One of the things about, and then did I send you another clip? You got another clip, right, with John Solomon?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, let's get that clip going, and I'll get into the next.
Sort of a blockbuster story on Just the News. I think you broke overnight. Maricopa County. Now, you've been at the tip of the spear of allowing us to understand the overall framing of what's happening in Georgia. And we've had tons of the local people who have been fighting the fight in Georgia. Maricopa, and as Georgia is the key that probably picks the lock today because people stood in the breach and go, everybody remembers back from that night that it was really Arizona and the call by Fox News that kind of seemed like a domino effect and really disoriented many, many, many people who were not just Fox fans, but obviously Trump supporters. And we've never really gotten steady on that. So go through what your story says today, because I think this is so important. I wanted to lead with it this morning, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So Maricopa County has had more than a decade of long-term problems. Back in the early 2000s, it was the Democrats who always cried foul that Maricopa County couldn't count votes correctly, couldn't administer the election correctly. Then in 2024, Republicans raised the same curtains and Democrats suddenly went into a state of denial. The FBI has decided that the history of Maricopa County is problematic and that under federal law, a county or a state must administer the election the way their state laws do require it. If they don't, it is a federal legal violation. This is why they raided Fulton County, another place with a long history of irregularities and misconduct and, quite frankly, just incompetent election counting. And so the focus in this grand jury subpoena that went in the last few days to Maricopa County, seized many gigabytes of election data, is the 2024 election, which is interesting because President Trump won there. But there is a discovery that was made by congressional observers. Every year, the House Administration Committee sends observers, one Democrat, one Republican, to various voting centers. One of the teams, the Republican-Democrat team that went to Maricopa County, observed something very disturbing. They took pictures. They wrote a long report. Congressman Abe Holliday hinted at this in an oversight letter recently. The information in that report was so troubling to the FBI, and when coupled to the things that the Arizona Senate found in 2020 that were raised as concerns, and the things that Holliday and Kerry Lake raised in 2022, they were able to get a grand jury subpoena from a federal grand jury and execute the transmission of a large amount of voter data. They're going to go through that data, looking for some of the telltale signs that were in this congressional report. I hope in the next couple of days to make that congressional report public so everybody can see what it was that observers on Brian Stiles' House Administration Committee saw. Brian Stile himself acknowledged that they were working with federal authorities on this specific Arizona matter. So you got Congress working with the FBI. And I think this is phase 2 of about a 5-phase look at states, particularly blue states or blue areas of states, where elections are not administered the way the law says they're supposed to be. And as a result, the FBI may come in and prosecute people because it is a federal felony if you don't follow your state's laws, if you don't treat everybody the same under your state law. So that's where we're at today. Now, over the next 10 days, Steve, we're going to have a lot more. We are going to be able to get, for the first time, I've been able to start processing these documents, large body of evidence that's in the intelligence community that raises concerns about foreign interference in our elections. That'll probably be the end of this week or early next week. The documents are explosive. They're really remarkable. And what's most remarkable is that all this has been kept a secret from the American people, possibly President Trump in some cases, until recently, of course, when his team told him. I think there's a lot there. And then in between those two things, we're going to reveal another codenamed FBI investigation that targeted President Trump, one you've never heard of before, one that may be among the most troubling. We have Crossfire Hurricane, of course. We've got Plasmic Echo, and we have The third one that targeted the January 6th investigation, Arctic frost. There's another one that is really deeply troubling. It's troubling to the FBI. It's troubling to the intelligence community. And hopefully between now and next week, we'll get all 4 of those stories out.
That's very important. That tees me up for this, the foreign interference, Yeah. And so, like I said, we have a bunch of different things going on, right? You have, I believe, when Biden was famously caught saying, hey, we have the most, I'm just going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact words. So whoever's watching, maybe you can give us the exact words posted to this video. But he said we have the most organized way to run, and we're going to win, and blah, blah, blah. And there was all these things that everybody's coming out saying, see, he's already admitting he's going to cheat, right? And they did. That's what Hammer Scorecard was, with Dominion and Smartmatic. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out. If you're watching some of these things that Tulsi's saying, Kash Patel, Ben Bongino, all these guys, a lot of these guys were saying, hey, man, Maduro also was talking, right? Because a lot of stuff was in Venezuela. So listen, whether you're, right now, the right is divided, right?
Yes.
People on the right, patriots are divided. Right now you have a lot of people saying, hey, we voted for Trump. We don't want no foreign wars. No Israel, no helping Israel, no Iran. This is BS. No Venezuela. Yeah. But people need to understand where this is all coming from. I think that people just are thinking they're not very analytical, and I don't blame anybody because of our culture, because of what we do now. Like me, I go to work, I spend 40 minutes, an hour in traffic, get to work. I work minimum 9 hours a day, spend an hour, 40 minutes in traffic back. I do what little I can do with the kids and all that stuff. So, there's a lack of time. So we're always constantly on our phones looking for social media. But if you have time, and I happen to have an office here at home and at work where I get to look at stuff and prep for stuff like this, you'll know that these things, what Trump does is for a lot more things than what you're actually seeing. We went into the whole Venezuela thing. It had to do not just the public face, the drugs, but the voting, China, all that stuff. Yeah. So one of the things was the voting stuff, and Maduro's talking, and everybody's been talking about that. If you watch any kind of news, podcast, whatever, that Smartmatic, Dominion, they had entities down there, and like General McInerney said, a lot of the stuff was down in Venezuela. Yeah. So you have that, and now we're finding out, and Glenn Beck just talked about this. And you can probably go on Twitter and find this video, or go to his Blaze or whatever he's got. He's got some new thing now, Torch, I think it's called. He could go, but he was talking about it, and they were talking about John Solomon, and by April of 2020. The U.S. intel agencies knew that China had gained access to voter registrations across multiple states.
Wow.
And what they got access to were names, addresses, driver's license, and social security numbers.
Whoa.
Right? That's a fact. That's what they got access to. And then there was clear intel on that. Reporting in 2020, there was in 2024-5, there was briefings, including presidential briefings that were given. Yeah. And what China is doing is they're harvesting data and running influencing campaigns. Wow. It's kind of like right now, right? You see all these. Right now, you see these Free Palestine, a lot of these anti-war, Iran, Free Palestine. What was the other one we just had where they're protesting in New York and all this stuff? Well, guess what? Guess who's funding it? Funding it is a guy named Singham, who's close ties to CCP that lives in China. That's a China influencing campaign. When they have all these signs, they're all the same signs. All these boomers are getting paid all this money, right? All these white, old, liberal people in New York and everywhere else. You know, that's an influencing campaign, right? When you
Yeah.
see these many people, when you have CNN, and CNN's part of it, MSNBC is part of it, ABC, NBC, all the liberal media is a part of it. When they say, man, and listen to their wording, right? Man, look at thousands of people, millions of people flooding the streets to combat Trump and this and that, and the Republicans and this and that. You know, they're part of that influencing campaign. That's how green revolutions and all this other stuff gets started. You know,
Well, I
and
mean,
people
there's
don't-
something that supposedly was happening in New York, and this is I'd say about a month ago. And I went ahead and you can get on the internet and look at these live feed cams of like Times Square and such. So I went ahead and I logged on and looked, and it looked like a normal day in the neighborhood. There was no protest. So the
Yeah,
mainstream media does false reporting.
and China, China does a lot. You know, just like, I remember at the height of BLM, I wanted to know a little bit more, and the guy that actually knows the most about BLM, is what's his name from Epoch Times, Trevor Loudon, and I watched this documentary of him, and he actually proved a video and everything, hard data, hard facts. You know, Patricia Kalors and the other two members of BLM, they were communists. They were Maoist, Marxist communists, right? And they proved without a shadow of a doubt, paperwork, bank accounts, checks, all this stuff, that they were getting funded by China. And Patricia Kalors, she's the most famous because she's the one that came out and said, there's YouTube videos where she says, I am a Maoist Marxist, but they're the head of BLM. So that's a Chinese influence campaign, you know? So when you see all these people getting paid, that's what that is, you know? When you
That's
see
foreign
people
interference.
going against, right. When you see them going against the SAVE Act or our elections, these are foreign influence campaigns, right?
Yeah.
And so right now you have it did pass, and I have the number here. So the Senate did advance it. The Senate voted to advance 51 to 48, so it did get advanced. So now we're going to see what happens. But Chuck Schumer just came out. I just saw it before we went on air. They will do anything to stop it. And to everybody watching right now, do you understand what that means? For everybody in a blue state like me here in Washington, do you know what that means? That means that these people are actually sitting in office when they probably didn't even have the votes. If you're in New York, if you're in Mass, if you're in Virginia, if you're in California, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, these people are probably sitting there not really elected. Do you understand that they were elected by dead people and fraudulent illegal voters? And these people, I'm sorry, but they're traitors to our nation. They're traitors to our country, you know? And so let's hope the SAVE Act gets passed. I think we'll see what's going on. They're speaking right now. They're still on the Senate floor speaking. I see John Fetterman. He said he'll vote on any legislation put forth by Senate Republicans that require voter ID nationwide and nothing else. So John Fetterman is actually surprising a lot of people, you know?
Yeah, he surprised me a great deal.
He's surprising a lot of people. And I think that, you know, it's common sense, but he's also in Pennsylvania. He's also on the battleground. So does he have political aspirations? I don't know. But Josh Shapiro is really bombing out, you know. I saw him on Abby Phillips, on CNN with Abby Phillips, and he was just bombing out. And they're like, what are you doing? You know, like, you know, he's really bombing out. And they were talking about if Gavin Newsom didn't run for president in 2028, they would want Josh Shapiro to run. He's like a mini Obama, very charismatic. So we'll see what happens. But the SAVE Act will get passed. But don't forget, Trump has already said if it can't get passed, he has other ways, which I think he's going to do the executive order. So listen, back to, you know, Fulton County, back to Maricopa County. What he's doing, if you guys haven't guessed again, we talked about this on last podcast. They're gaining all this evidence, and with that evidence, what's going to happen, in my opinion, is Trump's going to say, they're going to do a press conference. They're going to say, hey, look, we have all this evidence from Fulton County, Georgia. We have all this evidence from Maricopa County. We have this evidence from Michigan, Colorado. Therefore, by that, I'm doing an executive order, paper ballots only. Or not paper ballots, but paper ballots only, no machines, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really going to be hard for the Democrats to get away with it. They're already trying to pass legislation that no ICE and no law enforcement will be at polling stations, which is basically saying, hey, you're going to scare away our voters. You're going to scare away our illegal voters. But I think Virginia has learned a hard lesson right now with their new governor, CIA operative, passing all this stuff. And, who knows how she really got in. But right now, in Virginia, Republicans are plus 14. They're outperforming in the Virginia House of Delegates District 98 special election.
Wow.
So Andrew Rice defeated Cheryl Smith, the Democrat, by plus 28 points in a Trump plus 14 district. I think people are having buyer's remorse. So we got to see what's going on with these elections. And I think you had something about California and Shasta, California from a previous podcast.
Yeah. So last week I had I guess Arthur Gorman on from Shasta County. He gave some information on some things that are going on in Shasta County and starting to be implemented in Orange County, California. I'll play this clip from last week's show.
Nice.
Because we got a majority of our local conservatives on the board that understood the assignment and how important elections were. And the next thing we did was we wanted to go to hand counting. So the board of supervisors were passed a thing. We were going to go to hand counting. Soon thereafter, our election clerk, we didn't know, she was a registered Democrat, and she had been in that office for about 25 years, training everybody. And her and her assistant, Joanna, ran down to Sacramento, lobbying for making a law to where you can't hand count before it goes through a machine. You can still hand count after it goes through the machine and count your ballot, because you could not hand count it before it went in the machine. And so now we have a camera on the ballots before they enter the machine and when they come out, so anybody can hand count the ballots. It's a great process. People ask, well, who's done it? And I said, well, anybody can. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on the computer. You can watch the ballots go in, go through the machine, and come out the same way they went in. So he gave everybody the ability to watch it, be open and transparent. And then there's several counties like Orange County, Riverside, Huntington Beach. A bunch of people have had him come down there, show them the process, and they're about to start that on their own too.
Wow, thank God for Shasta County for doing such a thing. And, hopefully the rest of California's 56 other counties will follow suit as Redding or Shasta and Orange counties, or Orange is starting to do, but Shasta's already implemented. So that was a pretty good episode. Yeah, I put the link inside the chat, and I'll put it also in the show description. But definitely see what Redding is doing. It's a really good method because they take a photo before it goes in the machine and then they hand count after. It's just, that's like bulletproof accounting, basically.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. Number one is, being originally from Southern California, born and raised,
Yeah.
NorCal, what us people from California call Northern California. NorCal is traditionally all red, especially Redding, Shasta, all up there. The Bay Area is blue. Then you got LA County, which is blue in the surrounding areas. And then all south of that is traditionally red. And so in 2020, I think it was 2020, when you started seeing Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, Irvine, Santa Ana, Alhambra, Rosemead. And when you look at, and for those of you guys that don't understand California, Orange County is kind of the bougie area, right? But in Santa Ana, Alhambra, El Monte, Rosemead, you have the highest Vietnamese Chinese population. And Vietnamese, because they're all there, just like the Cubans in Florida, they're all there because they fled, the communist rule of Vietnam. They always vote red. So it's always been red. They've always had representatives red. And when you started seeing dropping like flies, mayors, state representatives, just representative turning blue after it was a total repeat of it was like a mini 2020 with Trump, right? You waited a couple days, then it went blue. Waited a couple days, went blue. Waited 3 days, went blue. It's clearly fraud. It's clearly stolen, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what they did in California. And the only place that was spared was NorCal, right? Because the population is a little bit less. It's not as dense as,
Right.
you know, Southern California, San Diego, kind of all that area. So, you know, there wasn't that really that many votes, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
And so if you're from California, and hopefully Spitfire's watching right now and everybody there, they're like, yeah, you know, it's, you know, you got to be from there to understand, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is either by the SAVE Act or by Trump's executive order or whatever he's going to do, this will take away of that fraud. Will it take away 100%? We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I do know that there has been a lot of reports saying out that the 2030 census, the Democrats have already lost. They're going to lose already early projections for the 2030 census from the voting and the people that we're deporting and taking out. Democrats are already in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. The other thing I want to say was, you know, whether you're just a normal person or you're in a patriot group, you should always be involved in your county politics.
Yeah.
Now, 7 years ago, going on 8 years, all the groups here in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, what we did was we started going into our county GOPs, and we started getting in. I got to be careful what I'm going to say with the names I'm going to drop, but we started getting in. We started getting in there, kind of taking over, getting votes and stuff like that. And for me, in Stevens County, Washington, we had a chair that was the husband of one of our senators here in the state.
Oh.
And they're known to be rhinos. And I got me, a couple of guys from Washington 3%, a couple of Lightfoot guys, a couple other guys, and we were able to vote him out. And we put in a guy who just passed away. His name was Larry Batterton. He became our county chair.
Yeah.
Conservative, Christian, wasn't for the transgender, wasn't any of this stuff, was always at the forefront of the battle. He just passed away.
Wow.
But that's what you do. You're able to get rid of people. And when we had a certain representative, I won't say her name, she was Paul Ryan's number 2.
Okay.
Who was from Stevens County, who has a farm in Kettle Falls, Washington. Larry was like, hey, should we, she was rerunning again, should we vote to endorse her as Stevens County GOP? Should we endorse her? And he looked over and he saw me, Rick, Tony, just a bunch of guys, right? Yeah. And I was like, do we want to do that right now? And he looked over and he realized he did not have the votes.
Yeah.
How embarrassing is it? And this is the power that people have. This is the power that everybody has. And they don't understand it.
Right.
You know, when you can't, when your representative from Eastern Washington, who's Paul Ryan's number 2, who is in DC, can't even get endorsed by her own county GOP. That's what I'm talking about. That's the power you have. Yes. Now, I hate politics, right? I can't stand politics. I just want to take a shower. I don't even go to all the PCO meetings, right? Yeah. I want to take a shower. But guess what? I get to be part of the credentials committee, the vetting committee. I get to see all these people running, right, that are running for office. And this way you can ensure who's on your school board, who your commissioners are, who your sheriff is, all your electeds. You get to see who these people are. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you have constitutional loving people that will, you know, be for freedom and this country, you know.
I mean, everything from a librarian up to a judges get elected in.
And the most important thing is on election day, you get to go up to wherever they count the ballots and you get to volunteer to count ballots and look at ballots and see how the process goes and learn how the process goes. It's very interesting. And I actually learned a lot doing this, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would encourage everybody that's watching to go do this. I know there's a lot of guys that do civic tactics, a lot of guys that are forming different things and doing different things. I would encourage you guys to do this because, listen, all these guys, whether you're Ted Cruz or whether you're Mitch McConnell or any of these guys up there, they all started somewhere, and you got to start at the bottom and work your way up, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how you have a basic fundamental understanding, you know, of what's going on, you know, and how the system works in your state. Every state's different, you know.
That's true. Every county is different too, for that matter. You know,
Right.
I lived in California with 58 counties, and yeah, I mean the ROVs were all ran slightly different. You know, they're under the same state guidelines, but each county had a little bit of elbow room, so to speak, to, I don't know, trip, fall, stumble, make corrections. I'm not sure exactly why they have that room, but they do.
Right. So it's like when it comes to my state, I could say, okay, like let's look at the percentage of voters there are on the voter rolls versus what voted. You're like, okay, well, if we look at, you know, if we look at presidential elections, the last 6 presidential elections, we had, you know, a number that always voted, right? And then in midterms, it's generally less. Nobody really comes out and voted midterms. That's a dirty little secret. If we could get people to come out, and that's the thing, you know, more people need to come out and vote at midterms, right? And that's the thing, you know, presidential election will happen, and usually that party will take the president and both chambers, or maybe one chamber.
Yeah.
And then the midterms, one of the chambers, usually the House, always flips. That's tradition, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't come out and vote in midterms. People need to come out and vote in midterms.
Yes.
And that's why Susie Wiles was telling Trump, hey, you need to get out there for the midterms and run like it's a presidential election. We need to change the way things have been done for the last 15 years and get people to come out and vote, you know, and get rid of the Murkowski, the Collins, the Tillises, all these rhinos that are doing this stuff. You know, thank God Mitt Romney's not around anymore. But you know what I mean? Get rid of all this garbage and get all these people in, you know.
And you know, quit voting for the popular person. Vote for the person who's going to do right. I'm, you know, paying attention to some California elections right on for their gubernatorial candidates, and right now there's, you know, a huge battle going on between the two front-running Republicans. And yeah, I'm just like, guys, why you guys, you know, while they're all fighting it out, I'm rooting for 2 people that are no party preference, because those guys,
Steve Hilton, and who's the other guy?
Chad Bianco is the sheriff over in Riverside County. Those two are just, you know, battling it out, and it's quite interesting, because I'm actually my vote would go toward 2 people that are no party preference, which is Louis Herms or Daniel Mercury. And those 2 that I just mentioned there are, you know, fighting for the Constitution of not just our nation but the state, you know, so to bring things back to the way it should be. Honestly, I mean, I know we're not going to go back to our normal, because we're going to have our guard up for probably the rest of our lives. But, you know, since the whole 2020 incident with the pandemic, we're always going to be on guard for something to that nature to happen again. And how can we, you know, get through it, you know? But I mean, we need to go back to the fundamentals of our Constitution. Like, for instance, California has passed laws that actually are harming children, and in the state constitution, that's not allowed.
Well, the Supreme Court just smacked Gavin Newsom down, didn't he? He just said, hey, you have to notify parents. You cannot keep this stuff from parents when it comes to kids in schools, trying to indoctrinate them with transgender. And here's the thing, that's good, because that applies to our state, because whatever California does, Washington tries to do, right?
Yeah.
So you had that. The Supreme Court smacked that down. Now that sets precedents, right? So now that's good for us here in Washington. You know, another thing was their magazine ban. You know, was it the 5th Circuit just came out and said, hey, man, your magazine ban's unconstitutional. Not the Supreme Court. I think it was the 5th or the 3rd Circuit came out and said, your magazine ban is unconstitutional. That's great. That sets more precedents for us, because when you guys did it, all of a sudden we did it, you know, or when California did it, we did it, you know, so that, and those were all unconstitutional things, you know, that we just need to get back to the Constitution, and that includes Trump. Like I say, Trump is not perfect, and I'll say it 1,000 times. Trump is not our hero, you know.
Right.
You guys, Patriots, have to be there, be involved themselves, and get going. You can't depend on people, you know. He's doing great things. This thing. So in his first term, I think his greatest achievement was nominating the SCOTUS judges that he did. I think that was the number one greatest thing he did.
Yeah.
If he gets a SAVE Act passed, or does this with ballots, I think this will be, in my opinion, the best thing of his term already. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
I think that
I threw an interesting question before our show started towards you. So the SAVE Act is, for voter ID. Now, do you think that this can be a hindrance on those in the future that are against digital ID, like myself?
we'll have to see how it plays out and what it all entails. I do have on Telegram, there is a prepper chat that I have, and I have one of the girls from Health Freedom Washington that's going to do a class on digital ID.
Okay.
That'd be a good question for her, and maybe you should interview her. She's a great girl. She knows a lot about that. She knows Del Bigtree and all these guys, RFK personally.
Nice.
We'll have to see. Anything could be used. Anything could be taken and used for bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of different things about digital ID out there. You see, Europe's doing, England's doing one thing with digital ID, where Ireland's doing something different. And then I think that, was it Denmark? Denmark is doing something. There's 3 different things that they're doing. So I think all these different countries are trying to figure out what's the best way for them. So we'll have to see what happens. With digital ID, yeah, it's not going to be a good thing no matter what, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I see in the future that people are going to start getting microchipped, which I definitely do not want in my anytime in any, not even great grandchildren's lifetimes for that matter.
Yeah,
we started digital IDing animals years back, I believe in the 90s, with a little grain of rice.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
So it's just
yeah. So we'll have to see what happens with the SAVE Act. They're still debating right now. Right now, I'm watching, and this is pretty funny. Senator Merkley, a Democrat, he's on there, and he said, "quote This bill is about stopping groups from voting who tend to vote for Democrats." So he's just saying it right there. He's admitting that illegals vote for Democrats. They're coming out and saying it. They're indirectly telling you what is going on. And I'm watching this. It's hilarious,
Yeah.
These guys, because again, these guys will lose power. They have a greed and a lust for money and power. Whether you're Nancy Pelosi and stock trading, or these guys having power and getting kickbacks, whether it's big pharma or whatever, this is what this is all about. This is what's wrong with our founding fathers. They didn't even really want to be in Congress, right? They didn't want to serve. These guys were, if you read about Washington and Jefferson and all these guys, our founding fathers, these guys were business owners, businessmen. They didn't want to serve, but they went in there, they did the thing, and they were out. They weren't there for 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
And these guys, it's just a greed and a lust for unholy things, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll have to see what's going on. Did you have another clip there that we had?
I don't believe I do.
Okay, yeah, I thought I sent you another clip. But anyways, the Glenn Beck clip is pretty interesting. I'd invite people to go watch what Glenn Beck was saying. He does have a thing. It is called Torch.
Okay.
And so Torch or The Blaze or one of his, you can listen to him on talk radio, wherever, if he's on in your state.
Yeah.
I'm watching Patty Murray, a clip from Patty Murray, who's from my state, up there fighting this, saying you will need photo ID and proof of citizenship in every single state. A student ID won't count. I don't get these people. I don't get these people. But yeah, so I invite people to get involved.
A student ID won't count because, well, I mean, though that is a state issued ID because it does come from a state ran organization, such as a grade school or a college for that matter. But I mean, I think it should be a driver's license or even passport for that matter.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about that, if you want to know more about how China gained access to to our voter registration and stuff, John Solomon actually has an article up right now on Just the News, and the title is "Election Integrity Crisis: Unveiling China's Secret Infiltration of U.S. Voter Stuff." So just go to Just News, look at John Solomon saying there's more info on that. I just kind of skimmed through it, but yeah, I really think that Trump's going to come out and do if the SAVE Act does not get passed, I really think he's going to come out and do an executive order. And we'll have to see how it goes. And this is good stuff. This will be good stuff for us. And I think that this will be, in my opinion, the greatest thing that he's done so far, because this is far-reaching impact, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a far-reaching impact. Yeah. You got anything else?
Not that I could think of. I mean, we're gonna have a pretty good show this coming Thursday. I was talking about civical or tactical civics. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about portions of our Constitution, including the first, the second, parts of the 10th amendments, and so you keep your eyes open.
You gonna have John Lazaric on?
Yes.
Great guy. A lot of good information. I invite people to watch that. Some good stuff on that end. And he'll probably get into the voting stuff too and stuff like that. But we need to get back, we need to get back to our Constitution, and
Absolutely.
Even Trump, he's not, he doesn't really follow the Constitution. I'll say it that way.
Okay.
He's just kind of out there. But yeah, some good stuff there coming up for you then. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I even heard like Trump, or somebody tweeted that Trump wants to put a ban against Antifa, and I'm like, be careful with that, because that can work against people. We'd like to have a well-informed militia, and we want the right to gather and assemble. So I mean, you can't be banning something just like that. I do understand there's the domestic terrorism going on, but we got to be careful on how we douse that. So,
hey, I'm all for free speech.
Yes.
I believe everybody has a right to say what they want.
Yeah.
Here in 2019, 2020, when BLM and Antifa were doing riots here downtown Spokane, me and the guys, we went down there to protect businesses. And I said then, hey, man, I'll stand right with Antifa. And, I'll stand right with them and let them say what they got to say. But when you start burning stuff down or breaking stuff, that's where we put it. That's where we stop. It's just, you got to stop that,
I was in the South Bay area, south of San Francisco, and myself and a couple of other guys were washing out over this little mini market liquor store, Salvadorian owners. We're keeping an eye out on that during the whole BLM situation that's going on in that area.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope. Because if a Republican administration could do it to Antifa, then a Democrat administration could do it to Patriots.
Exactly.
And we saw Biden. We saw him send the FBI after Catholics. We saw him go after Christians that were praying across the street at abortion clinics. We saw them do all kinds of stuff. If J6 and everything that they weaponized with the FBI didn't give you a clue of what they can do, and in my opinion, I thought they could go a lot farther, right? But it's just a little taste of what they could do. So, we got to be careful. You might not like Antifa. I don't like Antifa.
Neither do I.
I don't like DSA. I don't like John Brown Gun Club. Or any of those groups. But you know what? Let them say what they got to say, and let people decide. It's all about education. And showing them how things work.
Yeah. Absolutely right. So definitely be sure to join on Thursday. Well, we're going to be talking about parts of our Constitution, and be sure to like, share, and follow where you see this or even listen to this on Tim Holliday TV. That's TIMHOLLIDAY TV. And John, thanks for being on with me on Tuesday. Are you gonna be back next week on Tuesday, or are we taking a week off?
I'll be back. Yep. And I just again encourage everybody to get involved in the political process.
Yes.
And call your senator, call your representative, whatever, and try and get the SAVE Act. We'll see what Trump does, and let's see. It's either going to go two ways. Either we're going to pass the SAVE Act, and might see some fallout from that in the sense that there'll be paid protesters, all this crazy stuff go on, some protesting. Of course, it's going to be China paying for it. It's going to be all this stuff. Or Trump's going to do executive order, and you're going to see more of that stuff. So be prepared.
We got to find a way to douse that foreign interference. That's all there is to it. There shouldn't be foreign interference at all.
Right. I think for Trump to be effective, what he has to do is keep bringing out the evidence. Keep bringing out the evidence, whether you're watching John Solomon, Paul Sperry, a lot of these guys, Glenn Beck, a lot of these guys that are coming out, getting the information and saying, hey, this is what's going on. These are the numbers. This is what we're hearing, blah, blah, blah. And when Trump comes out with Tulsi and lays it all out and says, this is what we have, therefore, executive order, or these are the actions we're taking, that's going to ensure that we have a fair political process. And everybody in a blue state, everybody watching right now in Washington, California, Oregon, New York, Colorado, Michigan, you guys should be on this, looking at this and saying, hey man, this is good stuff, and getting your research done, because this has far reaching impact. Because this is what happens. You vote in, I forget the new governor of Virginia, the girl that was ex-CIA that paraded as a moderate. She paraded as a moderate.
Yeah.
The minute she got in, what's going on in Virginia? Gun ban, tax here, tax there, tax on gym membership, tax on dog leashes, tax on this. She's going to tax you if you breathe. When you get these people in, and then they create these policies that make it harder on your life. Gas tax, CO2 tax, millionaire tax. Look at my state. California and Washington just did that. Here's a perfect example of how California and Washington run side by side. Millionaire tax. What happened to California? All these guys left, including Bezos, and they went to Florida, and they're losing how many millions of dollars in tax revenue from Bezos? We just had Starbucks corporate is now leaving and moving to Knoxville, Tennessee, and Howard Schultz is moving to Florida, and they're losing that. All these, you get these people elected, they're elected fraudulently by dead people and illegals, and then they create these policies to harm us, the people. This is what I'm talking about. This is why you have to be vigilant, get involved in the political process, be willing to call your senator, call your representative and say, hey, what's going on? We know this going on. And you have to educate people around you, because this is what happens,
Yeah.
So like I said, our culture is this. You wake up in the morning, here's what we call in the Patriot community a normie. Here's what they do. They wake up in the morning, they spend an hour in traffic, they go to work, do their 8 hours, spend an hour in traffic back, come home, do homework with the kids, cook dinner, clean dishes, all that stuff, maybe watch an hour or two of TV and hit repeat. But those 2 hours of TV, what is it? ABC, CBS, CNN.
Yeah.
Programming.
It programs people's minds. That's what it is.
That's creating this psychological warfare. That's part of this. Oh, Orange Man bad. Oh, this, and this, and this. When it's done illegally and fraudulently. This is why you have to educate the people around you. So talk to your sister, talk to your brother, talk to your coworker, talk to this, and say, hey, how is that possible? Have numbers on you. Be like, hey, there's only 300,000 voters in this county. How is it that 400,000 vote? You know what I mean? Like, you have to know how to talk to people. But
right.
So this will be good. Hopefully this will work. So we'll see what happens. But I'm predicting in the next, midterms are coming up quick. So he has to do this executive action here pretty soon. I'm predicting in the next month or two, he has to get this done,
Yeah.
They have to put this information out. So look for that. Nobody be surprised. Hey, in our last podcast, when we were talking about Iran, what happened? Remember I called you right after the day after?
Oh, yeah. Everything John was saying. Yeah,
so trust me, because everything I said in the last podcast about Iran, and I said the soft targets and the schools, everything came true.
Yep.
So trust me, guys. Trust me when I tell you this.
So a quick reminder, everybody get on comms, find a secondary way to communicate outside of the cell phone. Because if you listen to a different podcast that John was talking about how China is creating SIM card farms. So the little microchip that goes inside your phones that have your phone number on it, those can be compromised, especially up in the parts of the New England area. You were talking about New York, if I remember rightly in that episode.
Yeah.
So definitely find a way for a secondary way of communications. So GMRS, ham, heck, even CB for that matter, as long as you can get out there and, you know, talk to people. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we're got to wrap up because it is time. I got a meeting coming up pretty soon too.
Yep.
Yes,
All right, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to catch us on Tim Holliday TV. Watch last week's show. Listen to how Shasta County talked about their ways of getting rid of the Dominion machines, and you know, catch us this coming Thursday, and we'll be talking about parts of our Constitution. And so at Tim Holliday TV, that's TimHollidayTV. And until Thursday, ciao for now.
Have a good night.